Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone, and we're going to be talking some cricket. Let's update you first with the first one-day international between West Indies and Australia being played at Kensington Oval in Barbados. Australia choosing to bat 154 for 4 of 33.1 overs. There was a rain stoppage some time ago, so things have been a little bit halted there at Kensington Oval. But 154 for 4 now, the Australians electing to bat against the West Indies. The West Indies going in with 11: Evan Lewis, Darren Bravo, Shimron Hetmar, Jason Mohammed, Nicholas Pooran, Kyron Pollard, the captain returns, Jason Holder, Hayden Walsh, Sheldon Cottrell, Azhar Joseph and Akil Hussain. And so far, Hussain and Azhar Joseph have each picked up 2 wickets in the match so far. Let's continue now with cricket. At any time of any day, whether it be in the backyard, on the beach or in the middle of the street, there'll be a cricket match being played in Barbados. Known as a cricket capital of the Caribbean, this island houses the world-famous Kensington Oval. Over several decades, the stadium has hosted many important and historic matches between local, regional and international teams. But after 139 years, Kensington Oval is searching for its first naming rights sponsor. That process has officially begun with a sports marketing consultant, Can Consulting, as the exclusive agency. Now, with such a big change in the works, there is bound to be debate among fans. Cricket presenter and commentator Barry Wilkinson joins us for a discussion. Barry, this press release hit the press probably about 24 hours ago. Any reaction from the Barbadian public about the renaming of Kensington Oval?
Well, good evening to you, Lance, and to George and Mariah and your many viewers. No, there has been no reaction whatsoever. And I didn't expect a reaction until perhaps a name has been, given. You know how Barbadians, Caribbean people are. It's new. They want to perhaps hear a name first before they begin to actually criticize, comment, or just have their own say on it. But there's been no reaction at all. Many people have been more so tuned into the on-field action at the Oval today rather than discussing this particular topic, which I imagine will have some reaction once the Can Consulting do come up with something.
Yeah, well, this development has been in the works for some time, and now we are seeing some tangible and real movement being made in that direction. What is your take on this? Because this, to be quite honest, is the method or the path that a lot of international sporting venues, famous sporting venues, have been taken in recent times.
To be quite honest, Lance, I have no issue with this at all. In fact, I think it's come very late in the game. All of the venues around the world, the top venues, do have a name in terms of a sponsor that can help the ground develop. Kensington Oval has piggybacked on perhaps having cricket there, and also has piggybacked on having the, not only West Indies cricket there, but events, which has not been really ideal. So the poor Oval has not been getting any income. And in order for that to happen, you need to have something like this going on, that the Oval can have a bigger presence in the international marketing world. So I think it's long overdue. I hope that a sponsor does come and sees the value of having someone like a Sir Gary Sobers, a Reverend Wes Hall, Charlie Griffith. The Oval has so many great things going for it. The Greenwich and Haynes stand. There's a lot of history at the Oval. And I think certainly it should be able to attract a big enough sponsor or a bigger name that it will be able to carry much more international cricket than it already does. So I think it's overdue, Lance, if I had to answer your question in brief.
Definitely, Barry. And when we think about the financial aspect, that's one way to look at it. But we know how fans are, and they would probably say, they might put this spin to it. Why didn't you name it after, a former Barbadian cricketer? Or do you see the discussion swinging that way?
I only see the discussions being that way if it perhaps goes the other way, whereas you don't name it. Let's say, I'm just throwing a name out here. Yeah. There's the Usain Bolt Sports Complex in Barbados. And when that complex was named the Usain Bolt Sports Complex, it caused a big uproar. Why not the Obadali Sports Complex? But the Usain Bolt Sports Complex belongs to the University of the West Indies. And the then Pro-Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, he explained that the University of the West Indies is just that, the West Indies. It's not the Barbados' Oval, although it's here on the campus. And I expect the only way you'll have some resistance from Barbadians is if you go and perhaps name it, let's say, another cricketer's name that is not Barbadian.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think there should be any resistance. The only problem I have with the whole thing is that I can't remember seeing a tender being given out or a tender being offered for a company to have the opportunity to bid to have the part of the naming. Can Consultancy is English, I take it. Omar Khan is from England. And his company, who perhaps do this worldwide, might have perhaps a bit of history and knowledge. But what I wouldn't want to see, I would love to see a Caribbean name or even a Barbadian kind of name attached to the Oval. You know, there's the Kia Oval in England. There's the Emirates Stadium in England as well. You know, you would like to see something Caribbean or Bajan that represents the name of the Oval. You will not want to see Jubilee Insurance, which is from Pakistan, perhaps being the sponsor of Kensington Oval based on the fact that they were willing to give more money. That's the only thing I would say that I would want to see. I still would like the identity to be pretty much Caribbean or Barbadian.
Yeah, so I'm happy you mentioned that, because for the uninitiated who are probably wondering what benefits will a naming sponsor bring for the Oval, you articulated some of that in your response to Lance's first question and just now. But here's the thing though. For those who love their history and who are hell-bent on protecting that history and are traditional and don't want to dispense with tradition at all, I think we need to say something about them, Barry, to say that, look, whatever they call it, they could call it Lord Jesus Kensington Oval. People will still refer to it as Kensington Oval, regardless of who the naming sponsor is.
You're Lance, sorry, not Lance. George, you are so correct. Kensington Oval is going to be called that come what may. I mean, look, with all due respects to the Greenwich and Haynes stand, people still call that the Kensington stand.
There you go.
And the history behind the Kensington stand is so huge. It's so enormous that I don't think people still refer to it as the Greenwich and Haynes stand, with all due respect to Sir Gordon Greenwich and Desmond Haynes. Because at the end of the day, Kensington Oval, has been there for eons. And to get that name brought over to someone who's going to watch cricket there, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to take a hell of a lot of branding, a hell of a lot of advertising, marketing to get that name changed into the minds, George,
that won't happen.
People in Barbados.
That would be wasted money. That won't happen. Sorry, let's talk brass tacks now, because you spoke about not seeing a tender or a request for proposal, an RFP or something like that. But I'm wondering if the brief or the charge given to the Khan consultants, in the same way that a government is divesting property, enlists the services of a company to handle that divestment, but they'll be given terms of reference. So I'm wondering, you spoke about certain companies or entities that you wouldn't want the Kensington Oval to be affiliated with. So perhaps it is that no company that sells alcohol, none that sells tobacco, none that is controversial for its past dealings, but perhaps a forward-thinking company. I'm confident, well, I'm assuming here, that the powers that be would have given the Khan consulting firm parameters to say, look in this area, but do not look in this area.
It's ironic you say that, because I think for quite a while, I think they might have been responsible for a rum company being a sponsor of perhaps a sporting event, and that never really goes down too well, depending on perhaps the sporting event there is. The point you're making, George, and you are quite correct, is that you would not want to see a sponsorship go too far south, because there is a company that's willing to pump so much money into it that you're going to be branding it and giving away history because of money. And I think that this is perhaps, I hope, a parameter that the chairman, the board of directors would have sat down with Khan Consultancy and said, look, yes, we want you to go after renaming, but we also want there to be some tastefulness behind it. You do not want just to give away to a sponsor who is going to give you millions of dollars to have some kind of a brand that does not associate well with any sporting activities. I'm talking about the same alcohol and perhaps tobacco, which is perhaps less more known to sponsor sporting events. But George, you have hit the nail on its head. And that is why I alluded to the fact, George, that I would hate to see perhaps, let's say, like an international Indian company, for example, who would just want to throw money at Barbados to get their name on Kensington Oval, because they know that when it's being called throughout the television sets in India, and it doesn't resonate at all with anything Caribbean.
I'll give you one. What if you know this very well, Tata is a massive company in India. The Tata Kensington Oval?
Well, Tata, they are affiliated in the Caribbean. I think they have some, I speak to correction, I think they have some roots here. So perhaps if they can...
Yeah, transportation, the
brand.
buses and mechanical equipment and small motor vehicles is what their business is. So it fits into the point you're making. It fits into the point you're making that it could be a tremendous marketing coup in India for a company like Tata to be affiliated with the most iconic venue in the Caribbean for cricket. And you know what? It's not that it has any difficulty by rolling off the tongue because Tata is only 4 letters. In the same way that nobody really notices the Kia Oval because Kia is only 3 letters. So perhaps it's a marriage of convenience all around there.
I'll tell you one that sounds good to me. The Coca-Cola Kensington. It's a brand that's affiliated worldwide. It's heavily drank here, and it would perhaps resonate with someone there because Coca-Cola can then have the pouring rights to Kensington, and that would make sense. Banks Kensington Oval is something that I think would also make sense, but then again, they only sell locally and throughout parts of the region. So it would perhaps impact on if they will be interested in having their brand set
Barry,
at a higher level.
Right on. You know, the disappointing thing for me, though, is this. The question that you asked earlier about not really knowing the terms of reference and not seeing an RFP or a tender, and I'm talking about the parameters of the task that the Khan consultants have been given. When you ask these questions in the Caribbean now, people make it seem as if you're a troublemaker, you want to know. But these are things that we should know. Having this discussion, Barry,
of course,
we should know the parameters for the naming rights. Which companies are a no-no, which companies are most prized. And so we have proper context to speak in these things. But they don't give us a lot of information and then we speculate. They get upset with what we speculate about. When we ask direct and pointed questions, it seems as if we're trying to make people's life difficult. But I'm depending on you to get some more information for us.
I'm definitely on it. I actually spoke to the chairman before I came on the program about an hour ago, but he was on a call. He wasn't able to answer that question. He's promised to get back to me. But I think I'll tell you another reason why I think it's very important to have a tender. Because I would like to think that a Caribbean or even a local company would have been given opportunity to fetch the carrot. I have nothing against Can Consultancy. I don't know much about them other than what I've researched. But if you're going to give away Kensington Oval to be renamed, Kensington Oval Management Incorporated is locally owned. It's owned by government. So therefore, I would have liked to think for transparency, even if you were going to give Can Consultancy the contract, there must be some transparency to see that a local company or even a regional company would have had the opportunity to bid and come up with some ideas as well to give a proposal to go after that. So I would like to get some more information on that. Before we continue the conversation.
Yeah, as we wrap, Barry, that's a question that you should ask someone, or you could go yourself. The next post-cabinet press briefing, that's a question for the information minister to say what decision of cabinet.
I'm glad to see, George, that you're watching these post-cabinet press briefings.
Yes, what decision of cabinet led to that? How did Khan Consultants get to be picked out of the hat? Who else was considered and all that? But thank you very much for your time, Barry. All the best. We'll follow this story.
Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you guys over the week.
Yeah.
Good. Coca-Cola Kensington Oval.
What I do know is the only way to please the fans is they will have to keep some of the history. They can't only think about finances because then they'll be in a hot mess.
Well, as I say, as long as I just believe that as long as the company isn't one that is engaged in business that people find objectionable or
like
find morally
underhand or
right. Gambling, I think if you stay away from those companies, you'll be fine. Because as I said, it doesn't matter what it's called. When people are going to the cricket, you're going to Kensington Oval or whatever the Bayesian accent is, Lance has it pat. But it will always be Kensington Oval. Yeah. But for official publications and so forth, the brand.
And I mean, they need the sponsor because we know how expensive it is, and worse yet, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so. They need money to get them back up on the ground, but...
And it's the business way that sport is taking at the moment. Kensington Oval, as you just mentioned, Jordan, Barry said it himself, that because of the rich history of Kensington Oval and the scores and scores of historic and action that has been indelibly written in the minds of fans. The first international cricket match was played there in 1895. First West Indies ground to host an English touring team in 1895. Venue of the first match between West Indies combined team and an MCC side. That was back in 1911. So these these happenings, George and Mariah, way before we were even thought of.
Yeah.
First Test match was held at the Oval all the way back in 1930, which was before my mother was born.
You know, I remember years ago someone corrected me on something to say that no, George, it's not the Kensington Oval, it's Kensington Oval. And the Bajans are sticklers on that.
Yeah.
What I will say is this.
Yes.
Look, the naming rights, one thing. We must do well by the traditions, and I'd like to see some more in terms of what the Khan consultancy is charged with doing specifically to see how this will go.
Yeah, I think we have further discussion on this later in the week. One of the main persons involved in the contract will be a special guest, I think. Good. Probably on Thursday.
I'm going to rename the section of our office. My section, I'm going to get a sponsor for it, a naming sponsor.
Sounds good. Make sure the sponsor brings things for the other people.
No, you get your own sponsor.
No, we just want things from your sponsor. We go to break. We'll be back.